What we do here is we love supporting local hockey shows. Even though I'm in Vancouver, I can still say, through the power of the internet, hockey shows and hockey programs from all over social media are available to us to consume and watch. This show that you're watching is a part of that network. But today, we are diving into a brand new show that revealed some really interesting information on a former top prospect and a guy whose ceiling defined him as a potential top-line player. And now the New York Islanders apparently wanted him. Let's talk today about New Jersey Devils defenseman Simone Nemec, 21 years old, 6'1", 190, right-handed D-man drafted second overall in the 2022 draft. Now, I'm sure most of y'all will remember that Slovakia had a really good run in 2022. Not only was Simone Nemec taken second overall, but you also had Juraj Slafkovsky taken first. You also had Filip Mesar taken in 26th. It was a really good run for Slovak hockey players in 2022's draft. But the New Jersey Devils made headlines when they selected Nemec second. This is because the projected first overall pick, Shane Wright, slipped all the way to number 4, and the projected second overall pick, Logan Cooley, was down there at number 3. The philosophy was, hey, the New Jersey Devils already had Jack Hughes, they already had Nico Hischier, why would they need another center? Why would they need Wright? Why would they need Cooley? So they took Nemec, and unfortunately right now you can say that Nemec is not having the impact in New Jersey that a guy like Cooley is for Utah, for example, but he's still fine. 9 points, 16 games. He's on pace for 46 points over the full 82. And while it's true Simone Nemec is not a top pairing guy, you have some other guys that are being used a lot over there in New Jersey, he still has exhibited some positive progress the past little while. It wasn't always like that. Nemec got sent down last year and had the majority of his season spent with Utica. There was some angst there for sure. But Nemec has kind of gotten back on track this season, so when it comes to the latest report out of the Daily Faceoff's Tri-State Hockey podcast, this was the first episode published 17 hours ago. Tri-State Hockey, of course, you kind of understand which markets this podcast is going to go out there and target. But we had ourselves a report from this show, 1 hour and 43-minute long show, about Simone Nemec and how the New York Islanders were asking for this guy in a trade. Let's head over to ProHockeyRumours.com because Josh Erickson does a really good job in writing out the information as presented in the Tri-State Hockey podcast. Devils and Islanders discussed a Nemec trade. The Devils and Isles had preliminary discussions over the offseason regarding a trade that would have sent second overall pick Simone Nemec to Long Island, according to a report from The Athletic's Arthur Staple on Daily Faceoff's Tri-State Hockey podcast. Staple clarified that those talks were initiated from the Islanders' side, not necessarily because New Jersey was expressly shopping the defender. Now that is something that I think we should note because it was talked about at parts throughout last year, that because Simone Nemec was sent down to the AHL and he only had 4 points in 27 NHL games, and you can say that his progression wasn't really going as far as it should have in 2024-2025, there was an argument that brought itself up that said, hey, maybe the Devils could trade this guy, maybe they're regretting the draft pick, maybe they would have liked a Logan Cooley instead. Obviously, from the hindsight perspective, it's a lot easier to say that because Nemec isn't a top player like Cooley is, for example. But hey, at the time, there was this idea that Nemec could be a very good complementary player to Luke Hughes. Hughes on the left, Nemec on the right, and Quinn Hughes on the second pair. New Jersey could have been absolutely loaded on defense. But because Nemec didn't really have the best immediate progression, there was the benefit of the doubt to be had for fans that were skeptical on Nemec and his second overall draft spot. Let's go back over and read over here. The fact that the New York Islanders would have had interest in a right shot defender with top pairing potential in the early stages of their rebuild is unsurprising. Rebuild? Did I say rebuild? Retool. Excuse me. The fact that a trade didn't materialize between cross-state divisional rivals is equally as unsurprising. Nemec, a 6'1", 21-year-old, was drafted in 2022 ahead of Cooley, Gauthier, and Shane Wright, but hasn't nearly clicked at the NHL level to the degree that they have. He had a strong rookie showing in 23-24 when an injury to Dougie Hamilton allowed Nemec to make 60 appearances while averaging nearly 20 minutes per game. He recorded 19 points and posted a -17 and led the team with 105 blocks. That's a fine stat line for a D-man in his 19-year-old season who was always seen as a bit of a project in a weaker draft class. However, his development since then hasn't been linear. Nemec lost time last season after the Devils added veterans Brendan Dillon, Kovacevic, and Pesce to insulate their blue line. He ended up playing more with the AHL's Utica Comets than he did with the Devils, where his usage dipped to 14.59 per game across 27 games. When dressed, he was more of a liability rather than a non-factor. He had just 4 points with a -10 rating despite playing sheltered offensive minutes at 5v5. He started 64.6% of his shifts in the offensive zone, but controlled just 44.3% of shot attempts. Even though with those struggles, the Devils made it clear at last season's trade deadline that he wasn't someone they intended to move. It would have taken an above-market value offer to move him, something the Islanders didn't provide. Staples speculated that their offer started with the Avalanche's 2026 first, which they had previously acquired for Brock Nelson at last year's trade deadline. With that expected to fall in the 20 and below range, that's not a particularly compelling piece on its own, and likely would have needed to be paired with an impact roster player at least to get a deal across the finish line. New Jersey's cap crunch would have made that a non-starter. It's unclear when those talks occurred in relation to the draft, but it is of little consequence. The Islanders still have Scott Mayfield and Ryan Pulock signed long-term on the right side, but their organizational depth behind them is extremely light. Tony DeAngelo and Adam Boquist are rostered on expiring deals as stopgap solutions, and their only right-shot D-man options in the minors are veterans Ethan Bear and Cole McWard. 2 former Vancouver Canucks, I might add. Their 2 defense prospects behind Schaefer, Kashawn Aitchison, and Isaiah George are both lefties. Changing that is likely one of GM Matthew Darsh's more pressing priorities next summer. As for the Devils, they're likely feeling justified in their decision to hold on to Nemec. An injury to Pesce has once again afforded Nemec expanded ice time to start the year. He's appeared in all 16 games and leads their blue line in scoring with a goal and 8 assists for 9 points, adding a +1 rating and 26 blocks. His 17.47 average time on ice is still lacking compared to his rookie season, but that's because he's not factoring in on either special teams unit, making his point production all the more impressive. So a pretty good holistic view there on Simone Nemec and the situation bestowed upon him. He's not really being given special team time. If you head over to the Devils and their line combinations, you can see that it's not really in his favor, but hey, he's still getting the ice time, and he is still being played as one of the top guys. Actually, it says here he's on the second power play unit, which, of course, we understand is not going to get the most minutes to begin with. He is listed first-line PK. That's pretty good for Simone Nemec. Look at this first-line power play with Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes. Have another defenseman out there. Throw Luke Hughes and Quinn out there together. That'd be really cool. But Nemec is listed as a top-pairing guy alongside of Jonas Siegenthaler right now. He's looking pretty good. Maybe not as good as he was a few years ago, but still, this is totally fine for a guy who is only 21 years old. I think right now the Devils are saying, yeah, it's good that we didn't trade this guy to New York, even though they did want him, and they were potentially offering one of their first-round picks that they had acquired in the Brock Nelson trade to get that done. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Simone Nemec as a player, and what are your thoughts about the Islanders targeting him in a trade. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.